Okay, hi. Welcome to another video. Today's video is gonna be big sister writing advice because I just turned 19 like 2 weeks ago, and I feel like that age is like I'm officially able to like give that kind of advice. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna give 10 pieces of advice. Okay, hi, this is me editing. Just to say that I'm actually only gonna say 5 pieces of advice. I did record 10, but it's gonna end up being like a 30-minute long video, and I don't want to do that to you guys, so I'm actually gonna break it into 2 parts, and part 2 will be next Saturday. So that's all I have to say. It's gonna be 5 pieces of advice for this video instead of 10. That's all. Okay, bye. So I just one more quick note. I want this channel to be a mix of like fun, goofy, more edited videos, like ones that are like funny and fun and entertaining to watch, with other videos that are kind of like this, where I give like writing advice based on my experiences. I'm sure people will end up preferring like one or the other or whatever, and obviously that's fine and fair, but this YouTube channel is going to be what I want it to be largely. I'll always ask for suggestions and probably do a lot of suggestions, but at the end of the day, the videos that I make are up to me. So today's video is going to be big sister writing advice, and let's get right into it. Okay, so my first tip is to write a lot, even if it isn't for your work in progress. Something that's really helped me is not only working on my debut novel, obviously, but also writing poetry and journaling. Especially those two things I've found have really helped me find my voice as a writer, like the way that I want to come across and sound on a page. And poetry specifically is something that I consider myself a little bit more weak in. Not that I'm terrible at it, but it's not my strong suit. So doing that exercises a part of my brain that's like not, great at it. So then it stretches this muscle and then allows me to improve in my novel writing, which is obviously longer sentences, not quite as obviously poetic or, fluffy, frilly sounding, but it still helps. And writing a lot in general, even if you're like stuck in your work in progress, writing for other things, even if it's like writing for school, even nonfiction writing helps with fiction writing because it's still your voice. Even though a novel is through a character's point of view, it's still your voice in the writing. So writing a lot is my first tip that I truly very much recommend. So that's my first tip. Tip number 2 is similarly to writing a lot, also read a lot. And I used to think this wasn't super important, and then I started doing it, and I was like, wow, this really does actually help as much as people say. I will say, you don't have to read 150 books a year in order for it to help you improve your writing. Like, I think that's something that, especially social media, makes you believe, because so many people, like, talk about how I read 20 books this month, and I'm like, how are you reading this many books in a month? I read, like, there's times where I like a book enough that I can finish it in a couple of days, but a lot of the time it takes me at least 2 weeks to finish a book, because people have things that they do besides reading. Not everybody likes to read for hours upon hours at a time, so I think there's this unrealistic standard displayed on social media. But aside from that, reading any amount is helpful to your writing, because it's almost kind of like studying for a test, because you're reading new words maybe that you haven't seen before, and you're studying another person's writing style, or you're reading in your genre that you like to write, so you're getting familiar with the genre and what people like to write within your genre. And I think seeing what other people do can really help you a lot to think about, okay, so how do I want to come across on the page? How do I want to incorporate what I'm seeing in other people's writing into my own writing? And yeah, and again, you don't have to read so many books. Like, even one book a month will help you. Even if you read less than a book a month, reading in general will help you. And I know I started this off with saying read a lot, but I really just mean read at all. Really, just read. And it doesn't even have to be solely in your genre. Obviously, reading in your genre will help you the most in your genre, but reading other genres helps too, because I think that sometimes pulling specific things from other genres and adding them into yours in your own way that makes sense into your genre can actually be better than just like sticking to like, this is what is in this genre and I can only put these things in my book because of that. I think that's actually what kind of hinders a lot of writing from being good. So yeah, second tip, read. Tip number 3, and this one might be a little bit more difficult, but tip number 3 is have someone who believes in you and encourages you to keep going, like to keep writing, to keep pursuing a finished product. And I know that's like way easier said than done, because if you don't have anyone in like your personal life who you see being that person for you, or you're shy, so you're scared to like reach out to people, it's totally understandable. I'm shy, I'm an introvert, I have a hard time introducing myself to people, but even if the person that you choose isn't another writer, if they're a friend, anyone who believes in you and encourages you in any capacity, even if they don't fully understand what you're doing, will help you. You might not necessarily be able to get advice from them, but that's not necessarily why I'm saying to have this person. I'm saying have a person who will encourage you and like urge you to keep going because they care about you and they know that you're talented. Because I know that for a lot of people, especially writers, it's kind of an unconventional thing to want to do with your life. A lot of people know that it doesn't make you a lot of money. A lot of people don't take writers super seriously. I've experienced this in my own life, so that's why I'm mentioning it. But I also have friends in my life who aren't writers, and these are people I know in real life that I met in high school, who still support me even though they don't really either understand it or, don't participate in writing as well. They still encourage me and they're still excited about what I'm writing. That's really what I mean. Like, have someone in your life who's excited for you. And it doesn't have to be someone you know in real life. It could be someone you've met online. And if you haven't met anybody online to be this person for you, I would encourage you to DM me on Instagram and ask me to be that person for you, because I will absolutely be that person for you. And you can DM me whenever you want, telling me what you're doing, or you can send me snippets and ask me to be excited about them for you, or whatever. If you have no one, absolutely shoot me a DM. I will answer and I will encourage you. So yeah, that's my third tip. Have someone in your life who believes in you and encourages you to keep going. Okay, tip number 4 is to experiment a lot, whether that's with experimenting with different writing styles or different mediums, as in different forms of writing. So if it's novel writing, short stories, poetry, it'll make you a better writer and a more well-rounded writer to like know what goes into different writing styles or genres, or how to write different mediums, like what's different between poetry and short story writing, for example. Just experiment a lot, because I think being a someone who knows how to do different things makes you a stronger writer overall, because you're well, I guess, educated in how to write, and you're not just stuck to one specific lane. It's okay to be better at one than the others. Obviously, for me, I said earlier, I'm bad at poetry, but I write it anyway because I know that it stretches that muscle. It gets me used to writing something else, and it even takes my mind away from like my work in progress, and it makes it more fun to come back and do what I'm good at. So yeah, that's my fourth tip. Just experiment a lot with all different kinds of things. It can be your writing style, your medium, your writing schedule. Even if you're typically like a night writer, try waking up early and writing and seeing how it makes you think differently, because a lot of people, I think, they think one thing works best for them, and they say that, and it might actually be what works best for them, but they don't ever try to do anything else. And you might find that like doing something different actually makes you better. So yeah, that's the fourth tip. Experiment a lot, often. My fifth tip might be a little bit hard to take, but just hear me out. Tip number 5 is be willing to take constructive criticism. Now, I don't mean allow people to walk all over you and be mean and discourage you. That's not what constructive criticism is. And I think when people hear the word criticism, they kind of cringe because they relate that to like allowing people to like tear you down and be mean to you. That's actually not what criticism is. Constructive criticism is something that's meant to help you, and it's supposed to be with your best interest in mind. So if somebody says something to you in the name of criticism that's actually just mean, they're not actually giving you constructive criticism. And I think we've all my dog. And I think we've all probably experienced something like that, where someone says they're giving you constructive criticism as a disguise for them just being mean. But that's not actually what constructive criticism is. And this is important because as creatives and writers, especially writers, we have to be able to take constructive criticism, because if we can't, and if we don't learn to do that early on in our writing process, by the time we get to like having a professional, or even just beta readers who are like not professionals, looking at our writing and critiquing it and telling us what we can improve on, if we're not okay with the idea of like, okay, this person might tell me that I could do this better, or that something's not perfect yet, how are you going to react to that? And it has to be, you don't have to like jump for joy because of it, because obviously it's hard to take criticism in any form, even if it's in your best interest. But you have to take the criticism. It doesn't mean you always have to listen to it, because nobody knows your story better than you do. But saying that, a lot of the time, you might not notice what's wrong with your story until someone else says it. So that's really why you have to be able to take constructive criticism, and don't be stubborn, and don't be like, I know exactly what I'm doing and nobody can tell me better, because that's only going to actually hurt you, and it's only going to keep you from having the best end product you could possibly have. So that's tip number 5. Take constructive criticism. Don't be stubborn. Okay, so that's going to be all for today's video. I'm just going to do a really short outro. Those were the first 5 tips. You'll get the second 5 next Saturday, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment other things you might want me to like give advice on, or just other video ideas in general, but specifically things you want me to give advice about. It might be in the video next week, but if it's not, then I'll make a part 3 probably in like a month from now or something. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye.